1. The spark of discontent. Russia in the early 1900s was a land of inequality, where the upper class thrived while the peasants and working class suffered. Discontent was palpable, sparked by poor working conditions, lack of political freedom, and food shortages. The seed of revolution was planted in these harsh conditions. 2. The reign of Tsar Nicholas II. Tsar Nicholas II ruled with an iron fist, but was disconnected from the daily struggles of his people. His leadership was seen as weak, and his attempts at reform were too little, too late, causing further dissatisfaction among the masses. 3. Bloody Sunday. A pivotal moment in 1905 saw peaceful protesters marching towards the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg, seeking better working conditions. The Tsar's forces opened fire, killing and wounding hundreds, igniting nationwide outrage, and marking the beginning of an era of unrest. 4. The 1905 Revolution. Following Bloody Sunday, a wave of strikes and peasant uprisings took over Russia. Though the Tsar promised reforms through the October Manifesto, granting basic civil liberties and establishing a parliament, the changes were superficial, leaving the root causes of discontent unaddressed. 5. World War I and economic woes. Russia's involvement in World War I exacerbated its already precarious economic situation. Millions were drafted into the army, leaving the nation shorthanded in essential industries, leading to severe shortages of food and fuel. 6. The influence of Rasputin. The mysterious monk Rasputin gained significant influence over the royal family, particularly the Tsarina. His controversial presence and rumored scandals further tarnished the Tsarist image, breeding distrust and anger among the populace. 7. The rise of the Soviets. As dissatisfaction with the Tsar grew, Soviets, local councils that represented workers and soldiers, became more prominent, eventually playing a crucial role in organizing the 1917 revolutions. 8. February Revolution of 1917. What began as a strike in Petrograd over bread shortages escalated to a mass protest, drawing crowds demanding peace, bread, and land. The Tsar's army joined the protesters, and Nicholas II was forced to abdicate, marking the end of centuries of Romanov rule. 9. Provisional government takes over. A provisional government was established, headed by Alexander Kerensky. However, it failed to address key issues such as land reforms and peace, maintaining Russia's involvement in World War I and losing public support. 10. Lenin's return from exile. Vladimir Lenin returned to Russia from exile, bringing with him the Bolshevik ideology. His charisma and promises of peace, land, and bread resonated with the war-weary and resource-deprived populace, solidifying his influence. 11. October Revolution of 1917. Under Lenin's leadership, the Bolsheviks staged a coup against the provisional government. They swiftly took control of key locations in Petrograd, marking the transition of power to the Bolsheviks with minimal resistance. 12. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. With the Bolsheviks in power, one of their first actions was to negotiate peace with Germany, ending Russia's disastrous involvement in World War I. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk ceded substantial territories to Germany, a move seen as necessary but controversial. 13. Civil war erupts. The Bolsheviks, supported by the Red Army, faced off against the White Army, a diverse group of royalists, nationalists, and foreign powers opposed to Bolshevik rule. This brutal civil war lasted until 1922, solidifying Bolshevik control but devastating the nation. 14. The Romanov execution. In a grim end to the Tsarist legacy, Nicholas II, his family, and their retainers were executed by Bolshevik forces. The execution marked the irrevocable end of the monarchy. 15. The Red Terror. To eliminate opposition and consolidate power, the Bolsheviks initiated the Red Terror, a campaign of political repression and mass executions aimed at annihilating counter-revolutionaries. 16. The new economic policy. As the country struggled with ruin, Lenin introduced the new economic policy, NEP, allowing a measure of private enterprise to revitalize the economy, straddling the line between communism and capitalism. 17. Formation of the Soviet Union. In 1922, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR, was formally established, unifying several socialist republics under a centralized communist government, redefining Russia's identity on the global stage. 18. The legacy of the revolution. The Russian Revolution marked the beginning of a new era, creating a powerhouse nation on a foundation of worker and peasant centrality, toppling monarchic rule that had lasted for centuries. 19. Trotsky and Stalin. The power struggle between Leon Trotsky and Joseph Stalin highlighted internal conflicts within the Bolshevik leadership, eventually seeing Stalin's rise to power, focusing the direction of Soviet growth towards a more totalitarian regime. 20. The Kronstadt Rebellion. A major insurrection by previously pro-Bolshevik sailors demanding more freedom from communist control was brutally suppressed, signaling the intolerance for dissent within the new Soviet regime. 21. The Cultural Revolution. Accompanied by political changes, the revolution sparked a cultural upheaval as artists and intellectuals attempted to redefine Soviet identity, expressing both innovation and newfound restraint under governmental control. 22. Women in Revolution. The revolution also ushered changes in gender dynamics, advocating for women's rights in society and workplace, although many traditional biases persisted under the veneer of progress. 23. Global impact and spread of communism. The Russian Revolution inspired other communist movements worldwide, sparking fears and hopes of similar uprisings in other nations. 24. Industrial expansion during NEP. The NEP era witnessed significant industrial improvement, as state ownership paired with limited entrepreneurship lifted production levels and living standards, albeit inconsistently. 25. Impact on religion. The revolution drastically reduced the influence of the Orthodox Church, seizing church lands and advocating for atheism, challenging centuries of religious tradition. 26. Education reforms. Education became a focal point of the Soviet agenda, aiming to eradicate illiteracy and promote science and technology to bolster the nation's advancement. 27. The famine of 1921. Amid economic trials, drought led to severe famine, starving millions, highlighting the fragile underpinnings of rapid political and social changes. 28. Red Army intimidation. The creation and actions of the Red Army bolstered Bolshevik morale, yet fostered fear due to its brutal methods to enforce order and mandate.